What an absolutely wild day involving money in all forms. This afternoon, the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates for the first time since 2020. And moments ago, Donald Trump showed up in a Bitcoin bar.
Assuming they're not just playing politics, the economy would be very bad, or they're playing politics, one or the other. But it was a big cut.
Tonight, why it could soon be cheaper for you to borrow. Plus, Trump also reacting moments ago to his Secret Service protection. What lawmakers investigating the assassination attempts are telling us tonight. Also this evening here on the Hill, the non-endorsement. Why the nation's biggest union is sitting the presidential race out. Welcome to Washington. I'm Blake Berman. You are watching the most politically unpredictable show on all of television. This is The Hill on NewsNation. All right, so tonight we can begin to ask the question, are we on the other side in the fight against inflation? The chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jay Powell, announcing the first interest rate cuts in the post-pandemic era. The Fed cutting rates by a 0.5 percentage point today after having rates raised on 11 different occasions from March 2022 to July 2023. And they are likely not done cutting. Beyond today's cut, the Fed's projections show another 0.5 point by the end of this year, another full point beyond that next year.
We're going to take it meeting by meeting. As I mentioned, there's no sense that the committee feels it's in a rush to do this. We made a good, strong start to this, and that's really, frankly, a sign of our confidence that inflation is coming down.
Big impacts with this one, what it means for your money in a second. But first tonight here on the Hill, new questions about the protection of Donald Trump. Tonight, Trump says he has faith in the Secret Service, but suggests they also need more help to keep him safe.
I feel very safe. They have the top of the line people, and they needed more people, and now they have them. They've been given that. And I guess it's presidential level.
Members in the House of Representatives investigating the first assassination attempt just got briefed on the second attempt, and they are asking questions. So too is our Joe Khalil, who caught up with members from that task force just moments ago. Joe joins us live from Washington this evening. Joe, a briefing just a little while ago. What are you hearing?
Yes, we've heard from a couple members now on that task force. One of the big takeaways, they say, is this is a lot different, obviously, than that July incident. The Secret Service just an hour or so ago laying out mostly fact about what happened, but it was clear, they said, that this was, in their view, this system actually working as it was supposed to, finding a threat and neutralizing it. There's still a lot of questions about why that threat was there and how. But take a listen to how Jason Crow, the ranking member, Democrat on the task force, described it.
It does appear as though the security processes and protocols were followed and the system worked as designed. That's the first preliminary impression. The second being, and this is an important takeaway for us, is that it appeared to be the same security package that was provided to former President Trump at that site, doing that activity, as he actually received when he was the president.
Now, that point, Blake, is important because you get a lot of Republicans mostly on the Hill, also some Democrats saying Donald Trump should have the same size, same manpower of detail that Joe Biden has. And apparently the Secret Service tells them that is essentially true at the moment, that that's the situation. The other interesting takeaway that we hadn't really heard this discussion, a couple of members came out saying we need to make sure that we can protect Donald Trump and Kamala Harris because of the reputation of the United States internationally. They say it's the same feeling like it was following January 6th if we're not able to keep our nominees safe. So that I thought was interesting. And lastly, they said they didn't feel like the Secret Service was stonewalling their requests, which is different than what we're hearing here in the Senate, because the Senate committee that's investigating this, Republicans said they are getting stonewalled, and Democrats in that room today were nodding their heads along. Bipartisan frustration there that they're not getting the same information the House task force is.
Our Joe Kay live for us once again in the Capitol hallways. Joe, thank you. Appreciate it. Senator Ron Johnson, by the way, joining us here in moments with his response to all of this. But joining me tonight here on the Hill throughout the hour, Mick Mulvaney, former Trump White House Chief of Staff, NewsNation contributor. Yasmin Raji is the executive director of the political group Swing Left. Denise Gitsom, NewsNation political contributor, and Kurt Bardella, NewsNation political contributor as well. Hello to you all. Nice to have you all in. Ron Johnson miking up for us at the moment. Mick, square this for me, because Donald Trump said today he feels safe. Kamala Harris said today she feels safe. We obviously know that they need better protection, right, because of what we've seen with Donald Trump in the last 2 months. But if they're saying that they feel safe, and you got the House and Senate investigating all this, where's sort of the disconnect there?
I think what you're seeing is the reaction to what happened in Pennsylvania, which is they've beefed up Trump's coverage since the assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. When they say he has the same coverage today as he had when he's president, that's not exactly right.
You're not buying that?
Well, yes, I am, but it comes with a caveat.
Okay.
It's always going to be more people with a sitting president, because he's got the football, you got the nuclear code, you got a bunch of different stuff that you don't have when you're a former president or a candidate. But if he does have the same security detail, the folks actually there to protect him physically, that's great. And again, come back to the story you and I talked about in front of the wall on Monday night. The system worked in Florida last week. So I think that does give everybody a little bit more comfort that the Secret Service is really in control.
You've spent years up on the Hill in the House. Where does this go from here? Because I just heard Kamala Harris and Donald Trump tell me we feel safe. I also just know what I saw twice in the last 2 months.
Right.
So.
Well, there's a lot of disconnect going on right here. One, because you have the House is getting certain information that the Senate isn't. There's frustration there. This is one of those times where I honestly think a bipartisan, bicameral process might make more sense, since this is not a partisan issue. This is an operational government logistical operation that needs to be looked at. The second thing, too, I think, is in the briefing with the House, the Secret Service said they need more money. They need more funding. The bipartisan panel looking at this, investigating it, said we are not the appropriate place to have that conversation, so they punted on that. This funding fight that's going on right now on Capitol Hill, additional funding for the Secret Service is a part of that, and that's going to play out over the next 10 days.
All right, I told you Ron Johnson, Senator, Republican from the state of Wisconsin, was miking up for us. He joins us live now here on the Hill once again. Senator Johnson, thanks for being with us. I know you just heard some of Joe's reporting, and I'm sure you heard Mick Mulvaney, former Trump White House Chief of Staff, give sort of his take. Where are you on this? Are you in the camp of frustration, or are you in the camp of he has what he needs?
Oh, no, I'm definitely in the camp of frustration. Let me just quick address the funding. Over the last 10 years, the Secret Service budget has gone up 65%. But by $2 billion up to $3.3 billion, personnel is up 32%, from 6,200 personnel to an 8,300 person head count. So they have plenty of people. They're also, by the way, part of a department that has a $190 billion budget, 240,000 employees who they will detail to the Secret Service in some of these surge situations. So again, it's not resources, it's management. And no, we are being stonewalled. This isn't my first rodeo. I've dealt with these people. This is exactly how they do not respond to congressional oversight. They're not responding.
Let me ask you, Senator, about the big economic news of the day. Folks are going to start to see their borrowing costs come down, and it could continue to come down here over time. The economy, as we know, is issue number one, and that is in your state, the swing state of Wisconsin as well. There was a brand new poll out, Quinnipiac University, that shows, once again, a tight race. But here's what I found interesting, Senator. When the question was asked, who do you trust more on the economy, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris? Across the blue wall, Pennsylvania was only Trump +2. Michigan, only Trump +2. In your state of Wisconsin, Trump +4. But when he was running against Joe Biden, he was up double digits. And now that he's running against Kamala Harris, that issue has seemingly been erased. And that lead for him on issue number one has seemingly been erased. Why do you think more voters in your state are saying, you know what? I trust Kamala Harris on the economy just about as much as I do Donald Trump?
Because the media is biased and they don't report the facts honestly. I mean, the fact of the matter is, under the Biden administration, a dollar you held at the start of it is now worth 83 cents. Just to have the same standard of living is costing the average American family about $1,000 a month. That doesn't get reported in the mainstream media. If it would be, I think Donald Trump's numbers would be far higher.
Well, people obviously feel this, Senator, right? Whether they have the television on, read a newspaper, the internet, whatever. We feel what has happened in the last 3.5 years. But if they're basically saying this is a net with the two of them, is Donald Trump and his campaign not getting the message across like they should?
Again, Donald Trump is basically competing with the legacy corporate media. It's a powerful force. You guys know how powerful it is. And that's basically what's happening right now. Kamala Harris was able to prepare for a debate by being coached how to smoothly spew lies. And so it's easy to do that when you know the mainstream media won't hold her to account. They won't call her on those lies. Again, it's not a level playing field. It's not a fair fight. I know this is complaining about the media, but that's a real problem we have in this country. We don't have an unbiased media holding both sides equally accountable.
Well, we do that here on NewsNation and here on the Hill, which is why I always appreciate you coming on. Last question for you, Senator. Jay Powell today, when he announced these rate cuts, he was asked, does the election have anything to do with it? Here was his response. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
We make a decision as a group, and then we announce it. And that's always what it is. It's never about anything else. Nothing else is discussed.
Do you take him at his word there, Senator, that this had nothing to do with the election? This is purely economics.
I mean, it's probably political, but be that as it may, we do not fight inflation the right way. Inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods, reduce deficit spending, and actually increase the supply of goods. I think it's crazy for the Fed to fight inflation by trying to drive a recession that reduces the supply of goods, exacerbates the problems. You have to look at both sides of that equation, reduce the number of dollars, and increase the number of goods.
All right, Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from the state of Wisconsin. Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you again soon. Appreciate it.
Have a great night.
Yep, you as well. Okay, Denise, Yasmin, you took exception to some of those answers. As a Republican, why?
Yeah, I mean, so Republicans have always been on the wrong side of the mainstream media. This is not something new. We have to be better. And one thing I fault Donald Trump for more than anything and consistently have is that he has not been able to prosecute the case against Kamala Harris on the policy of the economy and inflation. And there's a reason that every time they ask Kamala Harris, are you better off now? Are people better off now than they were 4 years ago? She can't answer
Why can't she say yes? It's a very simple question.
It's such a simple question.
And she won't say yes.
And we won't hold her feet to the fire.
I mean, I think what Kamala Harris is being really, really clear on is a plan. She is really clear about an opportunity economy. What we saw here with interest rates is one part of a bigger plan to make sure that small business.
Rates, though. None of the presidents control interest rates.
Of course. But she is investing in an opportunity economy. And part of what the effects of this are going to be is what she's been talking about over and over, which is she wants to make it easier for small businesses to get up and running. And I want to take issue with a really important point here, which is we're talking as though the media is spinning a plan of Donald Trump's that he's having trouble communicating. There is no plan. He's been asked directly on the debate stage. He says, I have concepts of a plan. Yesterday, someone asked him directly, how are my grocery prices going to go down? He went on a 9-minute diatribe talking about like 25 issues, not about the economy.
The difference, though, is Donald Trump was president. So whether you like what happened, he put the tax code into law.
Yeah.
No, Mike Pence.
Whether you agree with that or not, I would call that a little more than a plan.
Right, but she's been a part of an administration that has been working day and night to get jobs back in the hands of the American people, and it is doing so much better day in and day out that Goldman Sachs, independent analysts are looking and saying, not only is Kamala Harris going to be better than Donald Trump, she's going to bring tens of thousands more jobs, and if she's got a trifecta, it's going to be double that every single month under her administration.
All I know is that when they asked her, what are you going to do the first 100 days? She said, well, I have a plan. And the plan that I have is the plan that I have. And I'm very clear about the plan that I have been clear on from the very beginning. And that is the plan. It's double talk. I'm still waiting. The only part of the plan I've heard was price gouging, which is essentially price fixing. And then she stopped talking about details. So I know all the Democrats say she has a plan. I keep waiting for the plan.
So former budget director, let me ask you real quick, because interest rates dropping, mortgage rates rates, for example, they are at like north of 6 right now. Before the Fed started raising rates, they were at 4. Auto loans, same thing, a lot higher now than where it was back then. The Fed is going to continue to cut rates. Yeah. For the person who's sitting at home watching us here on the Hill on NewsNation tonight, or listening to us on Sirius XM, what do they take away from this going forward?
Listen, I happen to agree with the numbers that you put up on the about the Wisconsin economy. I do think that people are trusting her more on the economy than they were Joe Biden, because things are getting a little bit better. Inflation has come down. There's no question about it. I'm not sure the Democrats, we had a congressman on, you weren't here last week, they had a congressman take credit, say, look what Kamala Harris has got. We're going to get a rate cut.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's insane. You can't do that.
Patently insane.
But if you look at the consumer confidence numbers, which is really probably a better substitute for asking people who they want to vote for, the numbers are trending in the right direction for the Democrats, especially amongst independent voters. This cut is going to make your credit card a little bit cheaper. If you have a variable rate mortgage, it's going to make it a little bit cheaper. The question is, will it happen in time? Because it doesn't happen immediately overnight.
The Fed meets next November 6th. They schedule this in advance, many years out. The election, as you may or may not know, is November 5th. All right, still to come here on the Hill. You are looking live right now, Long Island's Nassau Coliseum, where Donald Trump will speak at the end of this hour. Already people gathered for that. Our friends on Balance and Leland Vittert will take that coming up after us here on the Hill. By the way, a big non-endorsement for Trump. Big news for him today on that front. And why was he at a Bitcoin bar? The former president makes a surprise appearance in New York today ahead of his rally, and he touched on several topics. We'll show you some of what he said. Hello from Washington. 48 days to go until November 6th. November 5th. You're watching The Hill here on NewsNation. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Hill on NewsNation. Live look right now, Long Island, New York. Not the place you normally associate with the final home stretch of a tight presidential race, but that is exactly where Donald Trump is set to speak in about 45 minutes from now. And today, a big non-endorsement. The International Brotherhood of Teamsters is skipping an endorsement in the presidential race. That is the first time they've done so since 1996. The union issuing a statement saying, in part, quote, the union was left with few commitments on top of Teamsters issues from either former President Trump or Vice President Kamala Harris, and found no definitive support among members for either party's nominee, end quote. Now, ahead of the decision, the union released a national poll of its members in which they say that Trump had 58% support. Our Robert Sherman live in Uniondale, no pun intended, New York, where Trump is set to speak. You know, Robert, this is a big deal, I guess you could say, because normally you think unions, Democrats. Donald Trump tried to get the endorsement. He didn't, but are Republicans viewing this essentially as a win?
Yeah, without question, Blake. Just when you look at the historical context here, the long decades of history of the Teamsters endorsing Democratic presidential candidates, Joe Biden in 2020, Hillary Clinton in 2016, Barack Obama, John Kerry, Al Gore, the list goes on. So the stance from the Trump campaign is that this endorsement not going the way of Vice President Kamala Harris is de facto a win to them. And when asked about why an endorsement is not going to either candidate, Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters, said this. Take a listen.
It's not a vote of no confidence for anybody. It's just a vote. It's a position that we took because both candidates didn't commit on the core issues that we need to get accomplished.
We want direct dialogue. We want answers.
Yeah.
And we don't want, false hopes and dreams.
Former president is now on his way here to New York to hold his first rally on Long Island since 2017. But on the way, he stopped off, spoke with reporters briefly for a moment in which he talked about this very moment. This is what he had to say. Take a listen.
The Democrats cannot believe that, look, this is, it was always automatic that Democrats get the Teamsters, and they said we won't endorse the Democrats this year. So that was an honor for me.
And something to note here, Blake, is that you're seeing this strategy play out across the board here for the Trump campaign. They're making the distinction between union leaderships and union members, trying to peel away the support of those individual members. See the same situation with the United Auto Workers Union of Michigan. Union leadership is backing Harris. Trump campaign believes they can win members. Same with the Culinary Union in Nevada. So that's where they're hoping to try and pick up some extra votes this November. Blake.
Robert Sherman live for us in New York this evening. Robert, thank you. Appreciate it. You worried? There's some 220,000 Teamsters union members in Pennsylvania alone.
You know, we talk about this being the most politically unpredictable show.
You're going to shock me?
I am.
Okay.
I think it's total chicken that they did not endorse Donald Trump. Their membership is solidly behind Donald Trump. For a leadership entity to completely ignore the overwhelming sentiment of your membership, you're not doing your job. That is ridiculous. It is such a cop-out. I hate crap like this. First, let me just say, I don't think that endorsements really matter unless you're Taylor Swift. Let me just be very clear about that. But if you're going to just go out there and say, well, we're not going to endorse anybody, and then you're going to release a survey that says 2/3 of your members support the other guy, you have no credibility.
I mean, he's not wrong, right? And I love that Kurtzel was fair. I mean, there's 1.3 million Teamster members and outsized influence in the blue wall states. You know, one thing I've realized being from California is that since I'm not in the Beltway, I have an advantage of talking to people, real people. And one of my Uber drivers was talking to me. He was a union member, and he was like, has Trump everything. I had no idea he was a union member. And then I asked him what he did. Oh, I'm in union, whatever. And I'm like, tell me about that. He's like, oh, all of us are for Trump. And you know, I don't understand. I'm not your working class man, right? I'm not the person that the Trump administration has targeted so carefully and really messaged towards. So I miss that all the time. But it is working. Whatever they're doing, it is working, and it's not for a demographic like me, but that doesn't mean that it's not working.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I just find that this is the most pro-labor administration that our country has ever seen.
They lost it.
So what Kamala Harris did, she was the tie-breaking vote for a relief package for pension rescue for $86 billion. What Sean O'Brien, I actually agree with what your colleague was saying on TV, which was that there is a playing of politics and there is a separation between union leadership. Sean O'Brien is out here playing politics. When we're talking about pension benefits, $86 billion.
Why didn't they endorse Kamala Harris?
It benefited Teamster members more than any other union. There's a whole lot of reasons.
Why didn't they endorse her?
Including a lot of fear-mongering that happens that is making up lies about how people are taking jobs away from union members. $86 billion of pension relief is something that Kamala Harris is going to be working her tail off. Why did they not endorse? Because Sean O'Brien was out here trying to schmooze at the RNC. He
spoke at the DNC, too.
He has not been hiding his perspective of he is out here trying to hang out with Team Trump. And what Kamala Harris and her team are going to be doing is going out and making sure that those Teamster members are spending every single day hearing from her about what she has done and what she will do for them on the issues that matter, like pensions.
Be real quick here, Mick.
Yeah, I think the issue is this. It has nothing to do with the number of votes, the number of people, because the rank and file never listen to leadership anyway. What this denies the Democrats is the infrastructure that comes with that endorsement. It's the money and the machinery that the unions bring. But keep in mind, there's different kinds of unions in this country nowadays. And while the manufacturing unions are trending more and more Republican, as you saw in the number, the service worker unions, government workers, teachers unions are all still solidly Democrat.
All right, still much more ahead here on the Hill. Another live look in New York. Donald Trump again expected to speak about a half hour from now. This comes amid tighter security concerns following the second assassination attempt on his life and exploding walkie-talkies in Israel a day after a similar attack involving pagers. What is going on there? Israel and how they are targeting a foreign terrorist organization. Robert O'Neill, the man who killed Osama bin Laden, joining us live on the other side of the break. Along with that, plus, are the Navy SEALs going to go into China or Taiwan? Stay with us. All right, welcome back here to the Hill on NewsNation. Live look at Uniondale, New York, about 30 miles east of Manhattan in Long Island. Donald Trump set to hold an event there in about a half hour's time. The former president set to take to the stage there sometime within the next hour, as I mentioned. Tighter security measures at the venue following the second assassination attempt on his life earlier this week in Florida. Over to the Middle East now, where today a second day of sophisticated attacks that appear to be from Israel hit the terrorist organization Hezbollah. Thousands of walkie-talkies used by Hezbollah members in Lebanon exploded, killing at least 14 people, injuring some 450 more. Now, this follows an attack on Tuesday where thousands of pagers the terrorist organization was also using exploded as well, killing 9. Now, these devices appear to have been rigged by Israel before arriving to the Lebanese militant group. One explanation that may partly explain the sudden attacks is a shift from Israel today. The defense minister saying, quote, the center of gravity is shifting to the north. Yoav Gallant saying, I estimate that we are at the start of a new phase in this war. Joining us now is the Navy SEAL who killed Osama bin Laden, member of SEAL Team 6, Robert O'Neill. Robert, thanks for being back with us here on the Hill. Always fascinating to see you and speak with you. I wonder, Robert, what you make of, in this new age of modern warfare, you have Israel going after seemingly Hezbollah, which, as we know, is a foreign terrorist organization, with pagers and now walkie-talkies. What does that tell you?
Thanks for having me back, Blake. What that tells me is that they are moving from the south to the north, but this is like a really precise pre-assault fire because they know where these walkie-talkies and or pagers are going. They know that they're going to the terrorists. So when they're going to maim them, they're going to kill them, they're going to just strike fear into their hearts right now, because not only are they taking away their ability to communicate, because, you know, they got rid of cell phones. They thought they'd get smart and go to pagers, and then they set the pagers, and then knew they would switch to the walkie-talkies. They blasted them up. What should scare Hezbollah is that means they're in their supply line, and in order to get that into that supply line, it means there's collaborators, which is a good sign, because the only way to get rid of these terrorists is from within. And if you get the locals, and if we can keep our promises for a change, that's the way they're going to beat it. But Hezbollah is really hurting right now. They can't plan. No one's carrying anything. They're scared, and they should be.
One of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, Robert, I saw a headline the other day, as I mentioned, but for our audience who doesn't know, SEAL Team 6 member, the man who killed Osama bin Laden, was the headline in the Financial Times. U.S. Navy SEAL unit that killed Osama bin Laden trains for China invasion of Taiwan. Is SEAL Team 6 getting involved with this? If so, no. Why do you think that is? Or is this just pure deterrence?
Well, they wouldn't be changing any tactics. If SEAL Team 6 got involved, it would be to evacuate or rescue someone either from an embassy, tight location, or a ship. But if China invades Taiwan, there's so much more than just SEAL Team 6. You got to think of the logistics to get the troops there, to the ships there.
Right, and that's why, that's why I was curious as to what their involvement could be.
We're going to need a lot of fossil fuel. SEAL Team 6 is more of a point target. Great people. Not saying they couldn't do a lot of good stuff and, you know, taking down ships. But this will be big Navy stealth technology and all kinds of stuff we've never even heard of yet.
So is this planning for the what if things go, you know, south as in potential war? That's always the case in what you plan for. Are they kind of planning for the what if indeed they are?
Well, of course, and they've been planning that for a long time with our allies, especially Australia and Japan over in that part of the world, because they have interest in, the entire world has interest in China not taking Taiwan, and they've been planning it. But a lot of the plans aren't going as well as we'd like them to. The good news on that side is we don't need to tell you the truth either. Maybe we're winning 20 in a row. So it's they're planning. We've got the best Navy in the world. I know that from personal experience. I'd hate to see it happen, but yeah, we can pull it off. It just wouldn't be SEAL Team 6 alone. There's only a few hundred of those dudes.
Got it. Let me leave you with this. Do you think, or here's a better way to put it, how safe do you think Donald Trump and the presidential candidates are right now, Robert?
I think they'd be safer if they hired private security. I'm seeing a lot of either inside job or incompetence at levels I wouldn't even. I mean, I would have fired everyone on my team, including myself. It's not looking good, but I hope there's stuff behind the scenes that we don't know now.
Robert O'Neill, thank you so much again. Always nice to have you here on the Hill. Appreciate the time, sir. Talk to you again soon.
Anytime.
You got it. Which one do you want to take up here? Let's start with the walkie-talkies and Hezbollah, because you had said something to me a month ago, Mick, and I think now we're starting to see the one after the next after the next. Explain.
Yeah, a month ago, Israel was able to take out a high-ranking Hezbollah member. No, it was in Iran.
It was in Iran, yeah.
In Iran, in the guy's hotel room with a bomb they had planted weeks or months before, which is really, really sophisticated stuff. The stuff they've done in the last 24 or 48 hours is off the charts. And I don't think we understand in this country the impact that this is going to have long-term on Hezbollah. They are afraid to pick up the phone. They're going to be afraid to sit in a car. They're going to be afraid to do anything. It's fighting terror with terror, and it's the likes of which I don't think any of us have ever seen before.
Well, they need to, right? I mean, this is Israel against so many of their enemies on every side of them. I mean, where do you go from walkie-talkies and pagers to carrier pigeons? I mean, I don't even know what's next technologically, a down step. But, you know, I think it's so interesting because the psychological element of it, it's not about how many people died. It's about at what point am I going to be taken out for being a part of this terrorist organization, and that is going to be the most effective deterrent you could possibly imagine.
All right, by the way, developing tonight, we are now learning here in Washington that the FBI is accusing Iranian hackers of stealing information from the Trump campaign and giving it to Joe Biden's team. Now, U.S. intelligence officials say the emails were sent to the Biden campaign in late June, early July, while President Biden was still at the top of the ticket for the Democratic Party. Now, the statement says the Biden campaign did not ask for the information at all. U.S. officials released this statement just moments ago, calling it part of Iran's attempt to influence the upcoming and current election here in the United States. All right, still to come here on the Hill on NewsNation, one lawmaker is demanding ABC and the Harris campaign turn over communications they had before the presidential debate. What is that all about? That lawmaker speaking to NewsNation, and you will hear from him on the other side.
O'Reilly, Cuomo.
My job is to watch what they're doing and then put forth a solution that I think would work for the country.
The liveliest, most honest debate on one of the most unpredictable presidential contests in American history. Tonight at 8/7 Central, only on NewsNation.
In claims of bias, not slowing down, the Kansas Senator Roger Marshall has now sent a letter to ABC News and the Harris campaign demanding that they turn over any pre-debate communications. Now, the senator accuses the moderators of excessively fact-checking Donald Trump while allowing Harris, he says, to avoid answering questions and having a biased agenda, Senator Marshall says. He spoke to our Joe Khalil earlier today.
It felt like this was a 3-on-1 dogfight for a lot of us out there. And then somebody came forward, a whistleblower, saying there was coordination between ABC and Kamala Harris's campaign regarding tipping them off what the questions were going to be. So our purpose is to say, look, show us your communications between the two of you. If there's nothing to hide, great, but we would like to see this. I think America deserves it.
Now, ABC has denied similar claims in recent days, saying that they, quote, followed the debate rules that both campaigns agreed on, and that, quote, no topics or questions were shared in advance with campaigns or candidates. Our Joe K doing double duty for us today. He is all over Capitol Hill, getting scoops and stories left and right. Joe, what's this all about? I mean, we all know Congress does messaging things and serious things, and does the senator have any support here? What's he trying to do?
Yeah, so a couple of interesting points, Blake. First of all, I missed you. Thanks for having me back here in the show. One, he does not have any co-signers at all. I've asked, there was an effort to get some other Republican senators on board with this letter. Apparently none have attached their names to it, so he's going it alone. The other thing that I think we have to mention is there is not any substantive evidence to back up this claim. We asked him whether there was anything beyond this one Twitter account, which apparently says there is a whistleblower, this Twitter account, an anonymous one. I'd asked, did you see anything else? Was there documentation? Has anyone come forward to you to talk to you about this? The answer is no on all accounts. It was just the whistleblower claim on X, and then also his reason for this, he tells me, was the fact that he watched Kamala Harris give answers that appeared to him to be almost too canned and too polished. So that is the sort of driving force behind this effort, which I think is, a little bit, it's telling in itself here.
Our Joe K live for us once again in the Capitol hallways. Joe, thank you. Appreciate it, sir. Okay, so there's a lot to talk about. You can raise a lot of issues about what went down last Tuesday and how you would handle that debate. And I could give you examples all day long. But if he's got no co-sponsors, and you're going to have folks who say, wait a minute, it's just the Republicans saying that didn't go well for them the other night.
Yeah, I mean, it seems flimsy. And also, look, Donald Trump is to blame for the fact that that debate didn't go well. That's a reality from a Republican perspective who's actually hoping that he's able to articulate his points and make that case against Kamala Harris better. But Americans' trust in media has plummeted to a new low last fall. It's only at 32%. So it's not a bad thing for any time these sorts of questions are raised. If there's really nothing to hide, there's really no reason not to come forth and tell the American people, like, show everything that you possibly could have, because that's going to help bolster, confidence
There's
in the media.
no chance an American media organization is going to hand over text messages involving their journalists and executives.
And then you wonder why people don't trust it. This is also why I'm glad to be on NewsNation, because we're not like that. We're not shady like that.
Well, part of the erosion in trust in media is because dishonest actors like that senator parade around on national television trying to suggest that there is a conspiracy that is completely unfounded. There is zero evidence of. I can't think of anything more destructive to freedom of the press than Congress getting involved in demanding text messages and emails of what's to stop Chairman Jamie Raskin next Congress, if Democrats take control, to subpoena Fox News for all the emails and text messages that they have had with. You can't do that. I can't imagine why Congress has such a bad approval rating when you see nonsense stuff like this.
The media's is worse.
Yeah, but I think this is the classic, we know Trump's playbook, right? He loses, and then he pretends like there was a conspiracy against him. And so I think we know what's happening, which is Senator Marshall is trying to cozy up to Donald Trump through the only game that Donald Trump plays, which is he's a sore loser. 81 million people fired him. He pretended like he won the election, and he's still talking about it.
You're going to bring up what happened to Hillary Clinton?
Well,
because that's what.
Look, I mean, as a Republican, if I don't assume the media is against me anyway, I'm just not paying attention. So do I think it's possible this happened? Sure. Is it possible? Does it merit a congressional investigation? No. Would I be surprised if somebody at ABC gave some information or did something? But what Roger said, and he's a friend of mine, he's like, well, the answers were just too canned and too polished. I'm like, that's what they were. I mean, we were always told when we run for office, you don't have to answer the question that you're asked.
Answer
the
way
question you want to answer.
Right.
And she knew whatever the first question is going to be, her answer is, I was raised in a middle-class family. That's what you do when you do debate prep at that level.
She was too prepared.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, that's.
I also just I think to your question earlier of is there a risk in an investigation? And to me, it's there are real problems that people on both sides of the aisle are caring about or concerned about, including issues like immigration that Donald Trump, instead of getting legislation passed, is calling senators and saying, let's block things, and just wasting time on conspiracy theories is exhausting.
If immigration is a serious topic, and it is, how come during the debate when Kamala Harris was asked about it, she used the moment to bait. Hold on, let me finish my question. How come she used the moment not to address immigration and instead to bait Donald Trump? Because it is a serious issue, and she was successful in baiting him, but she was also successful in being not serious.
So I agree with you that immigration is a serious issue. It's a serious issue both at the presidential level and also at the congressional level. That is why Kamala Harris has been really clear that she was going to support the Senate immigration package that was sponsored by the single most conservative member of the U.S. Senate. This is, to me, it is just bananas. There is a plan on the Democratic side that most Americans agree with, that Border Patrol agree with. It is a pretty conservative plan. And what Donald Trump is doing is saying, hey, listen, my poll numbers are going to drop if things actually move forward on this issue. I just think the American people want things to get done. They don't want all these conspiracy theories.
CBS poll on mass deportations, 2/3 of Americans agreed with that this summer. If you talk about agreeing. Anyways, I'm going down a debate rabbit hole here, but we could do this all day. Here's the first thing I said when I walked into this studio today. I looked at Mulvaney and I said, my friend Mick Mulvaney has taught me something, which is the most important resource that a candidate has is time. And you know something is legit when they send a candidate into a certain place. Show where Donald Trump was earlier today. He was in a Bitcoin bar in New York, and he said this. Listen.
Everybody that's a crypto guy, cryptomaniac as I call them, because they really are.
We're a little bit wild, right? Yeah, we're a little wild.
Whether it's Bitcoin but crypto, get out and vote, because if you vote, we cannot lose. It's the beginning of a new era, actually.
Mulvaney's been busting me for months here on this show, saying, "Why are you bringing up Bitcoin? Why are you bringing up Bitcoin?" Donald Trump was there. There's more people, tens of millions of people have this thing. Why is he there?
A couple different reasons. First of all, I think the Bitcoin thing is, again, when this election is going to be so close, he's looking for issues that might, sort of provide him with a group of votes someplace. And Bitcoin is someplace where the Democrats do have a difficulty. I think it's a small universe. I'm not sure it would be how I'd recommend it. He spent his time. I think he might be worried about one of the House races up there. I think Donald Trump has learned that in New York, if he wants to be president, he'd really like to have the Republicans control the House, or else he's going to get impeached again. And number three, and I guess this is probably what's driving it, I don't know the schedule. My guess is there's a huge fundraiser tonight on Long Island.
All right.
I think he just wanted to hang out in a bar in New York.
I think Bitcoin
a bunch of crypto guys.
Yeah. I think to underestimate
Trump currency.
I just wouldn't sleep on it, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but he's focused on fringe issues. Where's his economic plan?
When you got Bobby Kennedy advising you, what do you expect?
Bitcoin's real, and
I would just say there's tens of millions of folks out there who think this is a thing, and Donald Trump playing to it.
Not as important as mortgage rates.
Mulvaney smiling and giving me the All right, still to come here on the Hill, just minutes away from that rally on Long Island. Leland Vittert joins us on the other side of the break. Stay with us. All right, welcome back here to the Hill on NewsNation Live. Look now, Uniondale, New York, where former President Trump set to take the stage any moment there out on Long Island. Law enforcement officials, as you might know, tightening security around the event after the second assassination attempt on the former president's life over the weekend. Joining me now, Leland Vittert, host of On Balance. He's back out there again. He's not slowing down anytime soon, no matter what happens here.
Greatest hits coming tonight. And look, this is Nassau County. This is actually George Santos's district, where you had George Santos flip it, Democrat to Republican, now back to Democrat. It's going to be interesting to me if Trump is, and I'm going to use this word judiciously, disciplined tonight as he was last night with Sarah Sanders. Interesting enough, the headline out of last night was Sarah Sanders, not Donald Trump. And I think we are starting to see, and I will be proven wrong because I've said this before in my own
over the last 10 years, 6 years, 4 years, 8 years, how many?
There appears to be a slightly different Donald Trump coming out. And
you think so?
And I do, and I think the campaign war room, in terms of having Corey Lewandowski, Tim Murtaugh, coming back into the fold. The operation has changed a little bit.
Corey does your show a lot, Murtaugh on ours. You got Chris Cillizza coming up.
Chris Cillizza